Hello and welcome back to the Saints View, the channel for Southampton content, whether you're watching live or on repeat. It's Rob and I once again to discuss yesterday's 3-3 draw against Tottenham. 6 goals at St Mary's. When do we ever get to say that? And it's when we're talking about a draw. But anyway, like I said, I've got Rob with me. Rob, you were at St Mary's. 24 hours has passed, or give or take, past the result. How are you feeling? How do you reflect on that one?
Yeah, no, I think I think it's similar to Man United, right? I think if you offer me a point before the game, I'm going to take it from you, like without a shadow of a doubt. But I think in the first half we were really unlucky not to be ahead. I think we had really good chances in that first half and throughout the game. But unfortunately, Spurs were just incredibly clinical. Obviously, 3 shots on target goals. But yeah, no, I mean you can't fault the way we won. Showing real character, which we haven't seen at times this season, or for the majority of this season. Come from 3-1 down to draw back to 3-3. Yes, the penalty was a bit suspect, but who cares, right? Point on the board. As I said, as I keep saying each week, we're just about clawing ourselves still into this league. We're keeping a claw in there. So no, you can't point. It's another point against a Big Six club. We now go to, I think, 9 points in Sellers' first 6 games. So no, absolutely no complaints from myself. And our full performance was, for the most part, very good.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty fair summary. Obviously, you always take points against the Big Six. I know we've kind of said that really maybe it's a good thing. We do have to play some tricky teams still because it seems that we don't show up and we, collapse under the pressure when we're playing the teams in and around us. But I think now we just, we just have to deal with what comes our way. And, it's cliche, obviously, but just take it game by game. I think it's a little bit frustrating that we're still bottom of the league, but we are still very much in it. You're right. We do still have a claw in it. We still manage every so often to get that, even if it's just a point. We've done that the last week or two, where even if we aren't at our best, we can get ourselves a point or 3 just to keep ourselves in and amongst it. Because I think with if we were kind of obviously losing every game, we'd be down that by now. We're still very, very much in the picture despite being bottom. So I think everyone's got to forget about the table. I think it's more about the results that have come since Sellers has been in charge. I think this is now a really good time to take a break and just kind of reevaluate on what's been good, what's been bad, ahead of obviously what's going to be a massive end to the season, because 10 games in 9 weeks, it's going to be a really, really busy run in. But to be fair, is on the flip side, there are teams who have 12 games left to play. So really for Saints, it's not as hectic as some of their relegation rivals. But Robert, we've just sticking on yesterday's game, sticking to yesterday's game. Where did it go wrong for you, like in terms of going 3-1 down? Because like you said, it was a good first half. The performance was there. We showed intent. We obviously got ourselves an equaliser straight away, which is, obviously ideal, especially when you fear the worst, having conceded right before half time. Where did it go wrong for you? Because before we know it, it's 3-1 and it looks like another defeat.
So yeah, I mean, as soon as both your centre backs go off and get replaced, by how tall is Maitland Niles, like 5'10", not tall enough to be a centre back, right? I don't care what you can tell me about Alessandro Martinez. If you're playing against a striker like Harry Kane, you're only 5'10". It's not really going to end well in the air. So I think Spurs realised that. Kulusevski all game was just putting balls in the box. He was so good at cutting on back off on his left and just whipping it into the back post, doing it constantly. And I actually personally would have preferred Richarlison to stay on the pitch. I think Kulusevski's such a good player, as we saw, as we said last week in that first game we played against him this season when we lost 4-1. But yeah, I mean, the second goal, it was very obvious that you look at Kane, he gives a look to the back post, he sees Maitland-Niles and Walker Peters, and he says, yeah, that's a bit of me, and obviously just towers above them both. But I think when we went 2-1 down, we were playing some quite sloppy football, and I think it did frustrate me that no one really, was to close down Perisic for the third. Bazunu didn't have a bad game, but he wasn't convincing. 3 shots on target, 3 goals. It's not ideal. They were all, very, very good finishes. Yeah, Matthew in the comments there, I do agree. If we had, to be honest with you, even Lianco would have made it a little bit more difficult. But yeah, especially if we had Saleh-Sarr on the bench and he came on for Maitland-Niles, potentially, obviously, he might not have won the penalty because obviously Maitland-Niles won the penalty, but Harry Kane's second goal probably wouldn't have gone in. So, no, I think there was a little bit of sloppiness post their second goal, but I thought the reaction to go and get our second was good. I thought, Lavia stepped up when he needed to. Theo Walcott was excellent all game. But yeah, unfortunately, we did let our heads drop there. And the 3 goals we did concede, they were all quite sloppy, should I say, in terms of defensive positioning. Perraud went walkies for Porro's first, and he did that consistently in the first half. I think Porro had 3 shots inside our box on Perraud's side. Moy obviously didn't help him either by not tracking back. So as I said, second goal, Harry Kane just towers above Maitland-Niles. There's only one person winning that header. And then the third one, it would have been nice to see someone actually close Gavin Bazunu, close down Ivan Perisic. But no, well, we scored 3 goals for the first time in God knows how long. So very, very happy with that. But yeah, a little bit of sloppiness defensively. I think if we were a little bit surer at the back, i.e. maybe Saleh-Sarr comes on if he's on the bench, for example, instead of Maitland-Niles, then I do see a very possible factor that we could have got 3 points.
Yeah,
and quite comfortably, because Spurs didn't really move me all that much.
No, I mean, I think obviously it was kind of said by Antonio Conte in his post-match press conference. It wasn't a vintage performance from Spurs, let's say. But obviously, I think not clutching at straws, but obviously hindsight definitely helps. And I think we kind of look at it and say, yeah, maybe if we put on a proper centre back. But it seemed in his post-match press conference that Ruben Sellers was pretty happy with Maitland-Niles' performance at centre back. Mainly,
he was good. He was good, yeah.
So I think it's a mixture. I think it's, when I look back at the highlights, I think out of the 3 goals we conceded, the one that I was most frustrated with was Porro's, because he is in acres of space. I think the other 2, it's a little bit like, well, you can do this better, you can do that better. But the other, on the flip side, you are playing against world-class players.
Absolutely.
So,
for the most part, Maitland-Niles was great. I thought in possession, it was nice to have a player like him who, he's got a good pass on him. He's calm on the ball. Out of possession, to be honest with you, apart from that Kane header, he didn't have a whole lot to do. But no, when he had to step up, he was really good. So it was a makeshift option. I thought it was great. But yeah, I just think if we had Saleh-Sarr, then aerially we become a little bit more of a threat. Because when we were lining up for corners in the second half, yeah, you just look at, or the first half rather, you just look at the differences in height, and Spurs was so much bigger than us physically in the air.
Yeah, well, and in terms of positives, because there's kind of focus on them, I thought once again Theo Walcott, he's definitely stating a case to keep his place in the lineup.
Absolutely,
probably, definitely his best performance of the season for me. Well, it's going to have to, he hasn't scored that many. I was going to say, mate. I'm trying to think if that could be argued as his best performance since coming back.
I thought he was excellent. Oh, mate, I thought his positioning was fantastic. He was always showing for the ball. He wasn't lazy. He was constantly pressing, put himself in great positions, goal and assist. You can't really ask for much more. And I think,
how many? Did he play
90? He played 90 minutes, didn't he?
Yeah. How many times have we said this season, been calling out for our wingers to contribute more with creativity?
Absolutely.
The amount of goals we've. Oh, sorry, I said the amount of goals. The percentage of goals we've had come from midfielders this season, so it's a genuine worry. The wide men just haven't been contributing at all. So to get a goal and assist from a winger is really good. Kamaldeen, when he came on, thought he was excellent. Definitely played with a point to prove. And maybe there is an argument now that he could be better as an impact sub. I don't really know. I feel like he's had a few, tricky games to make an impact in. Brentford, I was quite disappointed with him, I can't lie. But I think there are a few other players that we were all disappointed with on the night. but that was a really that's what we've signed. That's what we've bought him in for.
Mate, Sulemana will
putting an impact in like that.
I think he's so I just think he's going to be so integral to how we stay up. I think you're right. As an impact sub, you know, if you're playing FIFA, you got to Sulemana on the bench, bring one in the 60th minute, right? That's just simple. But in real life, I think he's got something which none of our players do, and that's just the directness and the willingness to take players on. Like when he came on, I don't know, I haven't had a look, but he must have had 3 or 4 successful take-ons quite easily. You look at Walcott, who was our best winger on the day. He only had one. So, you know, I think he just offers something which others don't, and he played a good part in our second goal. He found space on the edge of the box, played out to Ward-Prowse. But no, I think Sulemana is. I really like him. I mean, a player who can get fans off their feet. If we have the Sulemana that played in that second half yesterday, and the Sulemana that played against Wolves at home, we have an incredibly exciting player. He just needs to add the goals and assists. But what he's doing on the pitch, for me, still warrants him to be starting over the likes of Moy, for example.
Yeah, no, I think the squad and the players kind of competing for the same positions as him. You know, I think he's lucky that he's the best out of a pretty poor bunch. But you say the kind of end product. We said that about him when we were kind of researching him before he even signed, when he was first getting linked. You know, his end product wasn't great in France. But I personally, I think he was way more direct within half an hour against Tottenham than he has been in probably his last 2, maybe even 3 games combined when he's in starting. So we just need to see more consistency. And you know, he's young. He's 21. Like it's going to come. And we said this, I think, in our preview, that is obviously a really difficult situation for him because he's been thrown in to a side that everyone's desperate for points and the fans are desperate for results just to see their team survive. So if he has one off game, you know, he's going to get absolutely slammed for it. I remember with
especially when you're a record signing, mate.
Well, and that is as well. I think when there's big money for the standard of the club paid for you, people expect an impact instantly. I remember at Leeds, so must have been his 3rd appearance, Onuachu, this woman behind me just giving him so much stick, like calling him a lazy so-and-so and all of this. And I was like, that emphasizes it, innit? You know, the direness of our situation. If it was the beginning of the season, I think everyone would be allowing a bit more time. But obviously now we want to see results straight away and we need results straight away. So, yeah, like you say,
left, mate.
more of the same from Sulemana, and he obviously warrants to start, but it has to be more direct.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that's enough, really, in terms of what I want to talk about regarding the game. If you haven't seen Antonio Conte's press conference, go watch it. Go watch
Wasn't
the full
that dynamite?
Thing.
Hey,
go watch the full thing. It's something else.
I'm absolutely shocked that I mean, if I'm Levy, right, and you know he's been with Spurs for over a decade now. You know, if Conte comes out in the press conference and basically slates the way I've been running the club for the last decade or so, yeah, we haven't won trophies, but there's no way you'd keep him employed. I'm shocked that we haven't seen Conte sacked. I genuinely am. There's no way he's staying beyond the summer. But no, that's so disrespectful.
I don't know. I think he's got a point.
No, he does, absolutely. But no, if you're a Spurs fan, I love that. I absolutely love that. Calling out Enoch, calling out Levy, whatever. But if I'm Levy, the man who makes the decisions, I'd sack him.
The thing is, I think he's still on probably a pretty big payout. Whereas if he waits 2 months, then he doesn't have to give him anything because he sees out his contract. So I think they're probably biting. I think they're all biting their tongue a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely good entertainment. But obviously now we go into an international break. 10 games left of the Premier League season. 10 games to ultimately decide our fate. And generally speaking, they're probably the toughest on paper out of everyone involved in the relegation battle. But I don't think there's ever been a season where this many teams has been involved in a relegation battle at this stage. I think it's fair to say 9. Yeah, it is 9 teams.
Nine teams. That's incredible.
9 teams separated by 5 points, 6 points.
It's 4.
4 points.
So we're 4 points to Palace at the moment. Yeah. 4 points. 4 points between bottom and
The thing is,
12th, is it?
the thing
Oh,
is,
Jesus.
it's a little bit misconceived because obviously some teams have 2 games in hand on us.
Yeah,
So
West
I do
Ham.
feel like come maybe mid-April, we'll start to have a much better idea as to who's going to, be able to break themselves away, because there is absolutely no way in hell we'll be here this time next month with 9 teams involved in the relegation
No,
battle.
not a chance.
It just won't happen.
You have to strike while the iron's hot with this situation. I'm looking at the. If you haven't looked at the, by the way, that is an excellent bit of editing. Had to be said. Go and have a look on the Saints view.
Yeah,
the run in for these
that's
teams.
that took so long.
Mate, I bet it did. But the run in for some of these teams is just the difference. I'm looking at West Ham's, and it that's probably about mediocre, but they still have to play Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, Man United, Brentford, City. There's still big teams to be played there. Bournemouth's isn't very nice. Ours is by far the hardest, by far. Everton's isn't great. There's some really tough teams in Everton's. Mate, it's all to play for. It genuinely is all to play for.
There is so much to play for, and I completely understand the fans who are now saying that they're quite confident we'll end up staying up.
Keep the belief.
Obviously you have to believe. I'm yet to be convinced personally, and we will talk about our picks for the bottom 3 later on. But the only reason why I haven't been convinced yet is more to do with games like Wednesday night, where everyone gets really excited about a couple of good performances, and then we play a game where we're not expected. I don't think we were expected to win, because Brentford have been brilliant this season, but I think we were I think fans expected some sort of result, but also a performance, and there was neither.
Yeah,
and it's that inconsistency that I feel we need to, is our major
issue. We've had that
all
season, haven't we?
We need to sort out, because there's every time this season we've gone and had a good result, we've not been able to back it up, or a good 2 or 3 results and performances, we've not been able to follow that up. So that's what we need to work on. I'm hoping that potentially, given the fact that we scored 3 goals for the first time, I think the first time all season in the league, the other day, it's a blessing in disguise, and we may be able to go on and take confidence from that and score a few more goals, because like we've said before, generally speaking, defensively, we've actually been looking a lot better.
Well, since Sellers has come in, we've had the most points out of the teams in the bottom 8. Or bottom 9, should I say. So, I mean, that's not bad, is it? That's, in 6. That's quite a big sample size as well, if you think about the games that are left, and that's a tough run. So, mate, I'm telling you, there's hope. There genuinely is hope.
Of course there's hope. If there wasn't hope, then
what's the point? We wouldn't be here right now, would we? So
what's the point in talking about it and going to the games and all of that? I'm just having a look at the table again, and every week it just kind of baffles me how close it is. But
still,
in terms of the weekend as a whole, obviously Crystal Palace losing today, I think for me at least, whenever one of those 9 teams are involved in a game, I'm going to be rooting against everyone else bar Saints, obviously. So nice to see Arsenal cruise to a victory today. And then elsewhere, Leeds beating Wolves 4-2. Did not see that coming whatsoever.
That was a shock, wasn't it? My God.
Probably not the fact that Leeds won, more the fact that they were 3-0 up at one point. Have
you seen the goals? They're very soft.
Yeah,
they're very
but this is the thing as well.
Shocking from Wolves.
With the thing, and this is the thing I say about Wolves, is that whenever I feel convinced that they're going to go and get themselves away from it and kind of be near where Aston Villa are, they always manage to shoot themselves in the foot and go and lose a game. Like they lost to Bournemouth when they got in a big win against Liverpool. They've had a few good results under Lopetegui, but then also some shocking ones like that yesterday. So I don't know where I stand with Wolves. Everton, great point for them, away from home at Chelsea.
So pissed off when that went in.
But at the same, it's like I don't know where I lie with Everton now under Dyche, because the home form's improved. I mean, the football's been god awful.
It's a tough place to go,
but it's a tough. Goodison's a tough place to go again, which we all knew Dyche was going to make sure happened. But then they've
Mm.
been able to pick up some results on the road. They got a point at Forest, and they were 2-1 up for quite a while. Obviously, getting a point at Chelsea. So maybe maybe they're at the right end of sacking the manager, bringing someone in and getting the results. Palace are really fearful, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think everyone's overlooking Crystal Palace because they're 12th place. You wait until some of these games in hand are played, and
They
it's
will
going to be.
sink quickly.
And I completely understand the argument that, well, they've got a much more kind fixture list to finish off the season based on the run they've just had, and I completely appreciate that. But why would you sack your manager then?
I don't understand the Vieira sacking. Like I understand that I understand the fact that the football was bad and they haven't won a game in 2023, but we've seen now Saints, Leeds have both set their managers, and the options that are out there just aren't good enough. Like you look at Leeds, Javi Gracia, yeah, he's a good all right manager, but I'm sure when they sacked Jesse Marsh, their first choice definitely wasn't Javi Gracia. Apparently,
No.
Leeds have been turned down by over 6-7 managers now.
Yeah,
Um,
Gracia wouldn't have been high up on their priority list. But I guarantee you, had Patrick Vieira been available when Saints and Leeds sat their managers, every Saints fan or Leeds fan would have 100%
yeah.
said, "Let's go for Vieira."
Oh,
You
mate,
know,
yeah, absolutely,
I
absolutely would.
think and obviously it'd be great to have a Palace fan to give their view. But from what I've kind of read, listened to, whatever, I think the viewpoint was that he'd been in there almost 2 years and no one could really see what the identity was he was trying to bring in, what he was actually trying to do with his players. Yes, some of the recruitment has not been great, and I think Saints fans can sympathise with that. When Ralph Hasenhüttl first came in, but at least with Ralph Hasenhüttl, we could see what he was trying to do with the players he had, albeit they were shit.
Mm.
With Palace, it feels, at least this is what I'm hearing, it feels like they still don't really know what Vieira's plan is, and he's had
They,
almost 2 years.
mate, they're just not scoring goals. Like they've going forward, they've got talented players, but they just haven't been able to link up. So I'm looking at the form table, right, of the last 6 games. Palace are 19th on
Mm-hmm.
form. Forest bottom.
Oh,
Forest
interesting.
2 points in 6 games. That's gone under the radar. They've conceded 14 goals in 6 games and only
Well,
scored
this
5.
is, I do
That's
also think
insane.
Forest, I think because Forest went on a 9-game unbeaten run at home, everyone's kind of forgotten about them, but
Mm.
they're still very much in it.
So it's the current bottom 3 based on form is Forest, Palace, Leicester, Saints 7th, then Everton 8th, 9th Leeds, and then the rest kind of make up themselves, Bournemouth in 14th. I do think that West Ham being 17th in that form table, I think it will start to shape up. I reckon within the next 3 games, we'll have a very good understanding of who's breaking away and who's going down. I think that Saints will be in a dogfight until maybe the last 2 games, with Brighton away being such a massive game for us, I think, come the end of the season.
Forest away as well.
Forest. So, I mean, you look at our fixtures, right? So you're looking at West Ham, you're looking at Palace, you're looking at Forest, you're looking at Bournemouth. Those 4 define our season. And these are all teams which we have ballsed up against this season, bar Bournemouth. So it's just, yeah, it is just it's mad. And I think I saw a comment earlier. It was like, I'm not worried about City or Arsenal. I'm worried about the teams close to us. And
No,
I completely agree.
I think
Completely
it'd be the
agree.
same even if we were picking up points against these sides. And that's my argument for as to why I'm still not convinced we're going to stay up because I haven't seen it yet.
Of course, that makes
I
sense.
haven't seen the team show up for a game that we've called a massive game. And in fairness, Salas has had one away, one at home, and we didn't show up in either of them
No,
in Leeds and Brentford. The others we have shown up in and we've gotten results. Leicester, I guess you could argue. Yeah, actually,
Leicester was a
that's
huge
harsh.
win.
Leicester was
Huge win.
huge, and the performance wasn't amazing, but we still managed to get the win. But I think that
Yeah,
says more about Leicester. They're another side that I really kind of fear for, and it does feel like there's almost a perfect time to sack your manager if you're going to do it because of how the bounce kind of works.
yeah.
Because we've seen, I remember when Saints were last in this deep in a relegation battle 5 years ago, and Swansea, I think Swansea went through. They either went
They
through
went. Yeah, it was a
two
couple,
or
wasn't
three
it?
managers that season, But I remember when they brought in Carvajal, it was kind of
They
obviously
had a
I can't
run.
remember, but they had a good run. I
Yeah,
remember
they
them
did.
going on a good run, and people thinking, okay, they're going to get themselves out of it, and then that kind of peaked, and then they kind of so the timing was awful. Whereas with us, with Mark Hughes, we timed it almost perfectly, where we were able to get the crucial victories at the necessary point to make sure that we got
Bournemouth
ourselves
game.
over the line. So I
Yeah.
do worry for example, us, for Everton, maybe Palace now. Did we sack too early, too late? However you want to look at it. But then you look at Leicester, and it feels like all season Brendan Rodgers' job has been on the line, and he's still there.
I don't know
Are
how
they
he's still in that
going
job.
to make a change? Are they going to kind of cash
I
in their
I
chips early?
I highly doubt this. If they haven't sacked Rodgers already, I doubt they sack him now. Like, I think with Brendan Rodgers, he's shown at times this season that he can get his team playing. They've went on all right runs of form, but they've just capitulated. I think what, 6 games without a win now, something like that for
Well,
Leicester.
they went. I can't remember what their result was before, but they went on they've just been on a 5-game losing streak,
So
only
yeah,
getting
that
that with the draw
ended.
at Brentford.
Yeah, but that's not great, is it? One point in 5 games. But no, I think if Leicester would have sacked him by now, they would have. And I think potentially been seeing a lot of Leicester fans. I follow quite a few of them on Twitter, and I've been seeing a lot of them say that Top, their owner, because obviously his father was the one who brought Brendan in. He's won the FA Cup with them. Done very, very well with them in Europe. That there's a little bit of almost like a sentimental aspect to Brendan Rodgers, and I don't think he's ready to kind of let go of that just yet. I think they still think that he's the man, which obviously he really isn't. But yeah, as Matthew says, if Maddison stays fit, I think they're still in massive trouble. Like, Maddison's a good player, but he's at the moment it almost feels like it's a one-man team, and you can say the same about us with Prowse. Like, that's completely fine because it's true, right? But if you take Maddison out of that team, if he even gets injured for a game or two, big games, then it's not looking good.
Well,
But
it's Maddison. Madison's the one who seems to be arguing with every single member of their fan base at the moment online. I don't
I
know.
know, bloody
He
hell.
obviously, there was the Athletic article after our game
God,
against
yeah,
them,
there
and then
was, wasn't there?
today he's been beefing Leicester fans on Twitter as well. And
He's so gone in the summer, isn't he?
I think he is, but
So
I
gone.
mean, look, from my perspective, if he was my player, I'd like to see my player sticking up for the team, sticking up for the club, and all of that. But on the flip side, I don't think it's a good look, because it's almost as if as I think he's been captain quite a lot this season, or he is captain in
He
general
is their
now.
captain, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously it's his place to kind of make these statements, and I completely get that, and that's exactly what you want to see from your captain. But if he's that naive to the fact that they're in such a serious predicament, and he's representing the players, and the players feel the same, that's not a good look, because basically, if you haven't seen, yesterday he tweeted that nice to assist Harvey and Brentford, no shame in getting a point at Brentford.
Yeah.
And someone basically tweeted, basically a lot of fans were tweeting, oh, we're 17th and now we're saying 1 point at Brentford's a good result. Like, how far have we fallen?
I'm looking through it now. It's
just
it's
arguing
mental.
to and fro. And I see both sides to it, but to be honest, like, if you're the player, either you bite your tongue or
I've always thought Maddison was a little
you
bit
don't
of a
make those
diva.
statements.
He is a little bit of a diva. I think he. I don't know. Maddison. He's always had an edge, hasn't he? He's always had that slight nasty edge, I think. But I mean, we were so close to signing him a couple of years ago. Who knew how that would turn out? But no, I think Leicester are in serious trouble. I just don't. Their squad just looks so stale as well, doesn't it? It just looks so stale. But no, I mean, you asked me earlier, Dan, who my bottom 3 were. Obviously, I'm sure people have seen the tweet. My bottom 3 would be Bournemouth, Cherries, and then Forest, then Leicester. That would be kind of my bottom 3. I think if you look at the form tables, Forest are falling apart. Leicester, as we all know, has been falling apart, as we just kind of discussed. Bournemouth just don't have the squad to keep them up, in my opinion. Like they had chances against Villa that they just didn't take, and their defending against Villa at the weekend when they lost 3-0 was awful. The goals they conceded were dreadful from their part. So I think that's my bottom three. I think Saints stay up in 17th, but my God, it's going to come down to the final 3 games. People forget, as we said 5 years ago, we were 4 points off of Swansea with about 3 games to play, and we turned it around. And we anything in a relegation scrap, especially this tight, is possible. But I think we get 17th, and I think we do the Great Escape. But it will be so tight.
The thing is, and I said this weeks ago, and I still stand by it. I think the way it's shaping up, we're definitely going to see at least one pretty big club go down because of who's involved. Whether that be Leicester, whether that be West Ham, whether that be us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to see an established side go down. And we haven't really talked about West Ham because obviously their situation is even more interesting for me because obviously they've got the distraction of Conference League football. And to be honest, looking at some of the teams, the final 8 teams in there, I think you could genuinely back West Ham to go on and get a good run and maybe even get to the final and go win it.
They've got to be favourites, right? Surely.
I think they are favourites to go and win that. So that must be such a difficult situation for the players and the coach and stuff, and even the fans. Do
they play? Sorry, Dan, just to cut you in there.
Go for it.
When do they play their next Conference League game? Is that the week after?
I think it'll be after playing us.
Because if it is, then potentially, we could see some rotation, which I doubt. But surely, if you're a West Ham fan, it's same as we said loads of times this season: FA Cup or relegation. European trophy or relegation, you take European trophy, right?
They play their first leg away on the 13th of April.
Okay, yeah, they missed us, but that's almost 2 weeks after us. That's a shame, a big shame. But hey, yeah, that's a big shame. But yeah, that game's massive. But I can't believe the situation that they're in with Scamacca, who's Italy's starting number 9, Paqueta, Brazil starting number 10. I can't believe that they are in the situation they're in. They got Declan Rice, Jared Bowen, who got all over 20 goals and assists last year in the Premier League. So it is incredible where they found themselves. There's massive weak spots in that team. I think, especially in their fullback positions. Cresswell and Soufal just haven't done it at all for me this year. I think when we play them, I'm sure we'll cover this in the preview. Get Sulemana and Walcott running at them. Especially, I'd love to see Sulemana.
Walcott's got a great scoring record against West Ham. You ask any West Ham fan, they're always terrified of playing Theo Walcott.
Mental, isn't it? But no, Danny Ings, of course. How could we forget? But no, I do think I'm shocked that West Ham are in the position they're in, and I think without the European adventure they're on, Moyes would have been gone a long, long time ago. Yeah,
obviously, they've had one of their chairmen pass away, and obviously having to deal with that. So I think it's been a really bizarre season for West Ham, and obviously when we do the preview, we'll try and get a West Ham fan on to give us all the insight, because it's a club that I think for me, I've kind of not paid as much attention as I probably usually would. And you see obviously where they are on the table, and you think, God, like how has this happened? Given that the last 2 seasons they finished 7th and 6th. But I look at and that for me is also why I'm still concerned, even if we do stay up with our longevity in the league and our long-term future, because some of these squads involved in the relegation battle,
this league is so strong.
The amount of internationals we're talking about here, obviously you just said with West Ham, Scamacca, it hasn't worked out for whatever reason, and he's Italy international. Paqueta, scored for Brazil, let alone played for them at the World Cup. Forest have gone on, fresh from promotion, have signed, Champions League winners, plenty of internationals. I mean, Keylor Navas.
They signed Atletico Madrid's left back and PSG's goalkeeper.
Like, genuinely speaking, if you'd said to me this time last year that in a year's time Keylor Navas will be Forest's starting goalkeeper, I would have been baffled, absolutely baffled.
This league needs serious financial regulation and fast. It's actually scary, isn't it?
Everton have got some great players. Leeds have got some good players. Wolves have got to be honest, right? If I look at it, and we're just talking squads
On paper.
on paper, I'm kind of thinking out of the teams involved, I think it's us, Bournemouth, and probably Crystal Palace.
I do think our squad. I genuinely think that our squad on paper isn't bad. Like, it is not bad. I think I would I'd say Leicester have a worse squad than us because of how stale it is. I think
Yeah,
Forest
fair.
squads hasn't really gelled. It was so funny because on Wednesday, obviously, when we played Brentford, who I know are not a part of this conversation at all, but you look at their squad, right, and you think, how does a midfield of Jensen, Norgard, and sorry, I've completely forgotten their last midfielder, but that midfield three just looks like such a plain standard midfield, but they play really well together. But I think if you were to put our team on paper, you're thinking of the likes of Bella Kotchap, Lavia, Walker Peters, Paul and Achu, Sulemana, there's some good names on there. Ward-Prowse, of course. I do think we actually have a good team, and I do think on paper it is great, and the players just have to find each other, and they have to find something in themselves.
Well,
But I do agree, this squad is this league is ridiculously strong, and I said that at the start of the year. It's scary how strong this squad is.
I just don't know if we stay up, where we go from there, because it's going to be one of these things where, okay, because we've survived, are we going to try and push on? There'd be so many questions that would have to be answered. Obviously, it's the same if we go down. The next summer or the summer coming up is going to be massive, regardless of what league we're in, because for obvious different reasons. But the only thing I would say is, based on the teams currently fighting for promotion in the Championship, and we'll obviously have to see because it's not guaranteed. But I'm personally not convinced that which out of the three teams that eventually do come up, all three will be able to stay up, because generally speaking, it rarely happens. And secondly, it's because Burnley are so clear of everyone else. Sheffield United have been inconsistent of late, and I wouldn't back them for survival right now. Obviously, you have to see what they do in the summer. And then in terms of the teams in a round for the playoffs, again, it's hard to genuinely
I agree.
Convincingly say they'd be able to build a team that stays up and competes in the league. So
the only reason why Forest are pushing on so hard is because, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, in the Championship, FFP restricts you so much, and they have one of the richest owners in the country.
Well, it's the same with Aston Villa.
Yeah, absolutely. So they were just allowed to spend money, and I don't see Burnley doing that. Alan Pace, he spent well in the summer, but he's bought a lot of £2 million, £3 million players. Obviously, transfer embargo, which I'm sure will mean absolutely nothing come July. But I don't see that any of them being able to invest. Like Sheffield United, there's no way they can invest all that money into kind of keeping in this league to get a squad that's Prem quality and then have it gel over the course of 6 months to stay up. I just don't see that personally. So I think if we do stay up, you're right. You look at Burnley, who knows where Burnley and what they'll do next year, because Championship and Prem is a completely different animal. Where will Nathan Tella be? Who knows? Look at Sheffield United again, as you said, very inconsistent. You got teams like Blackburn Rovers, kicking around the playoffs. Like, I don't know. It's just I think if we stay up, are we delaying the inevitable, or or are we giving ourselves a good platform to push on from? Who knows?
Yeah, no, I know. It's an interesting one. I said earlier this season that it's a shame we're in a relegation battle, because I do think some of these players are going to go on to have top careers. And the more they play, obviously, the better they're going to get. And obviously, if we do stay up, I think you're probably looking at a side that could be a lot more competitive next year. Obviously, touch wood, because of how young some of these players are. And you probably say, I don't want to start getting all hopeful, but I would like to think that if we would stay up, you'd probably have Romeo Lavia stay another year.
Oh, don't get my heart going, man.
You'd probably have James Ward-Prowse stay at least another year. I don't see him leaving if we stay up, personally. Obviously, that could be.
No, I don't either.
That could be clipped. But
I mean, Dan, when I had this conversation in the pub with Alfie House yesterday, right? So Ward-Prowse, if we stay up, how much is Ward-Prowse on paper worth to the club? 60, 70 mil, right? Simple as that. With the amount of time that's remaining on his contract. He's turning 29 in November. Which club is going to come in and spend 60 to 70 million on a 29-year-old?
Yeah, I agree.
No one. No one will. So simple
West
as that.
Ham.
So,
I think literally West Ham is the only team I
there's
can think of.
I mean, they are transfer-wise, they are probably one of the more stupid clubs in the league to do that. But I just don't. I think if we stay up, I just think his price tag. He is priceless to this club. There's no way he will. I mean, if we do go down, if we can keep Alcaraz, that's a ready-made replacement, in my opinion.
Well, this is a good comment because I think personally, if we stay up, I think there's decent fundamentals of a good squad there. There'll be a few bits of dead wood to get rid of.
Just a few.
But if we spent what 70, 80 million on 10 players, I think fans could realistically hope for 70 to 80 million spent on 3 players.
Well, I mean,
we'd have to go get that striker.
Well, mate, as you said, if Lavia, if we stay up, minimum asking, right? If Chelsea are putting in 50 mil bids in August after Lavia's played 5 games, whatever it was, you gotta say 70 mil on the table, right? 65, 70 mil for Lavia. If Dragan has, for example, 60 mil ready to go, 70 mil, obviously it's all hypothetical, don't have a clue. But, we could look at a really, really big summer in the summer if we were to move on some players. ABK, I reckon, will move to Leipzig as soon as Gvardiol goes. I think that's a ready-made replacement for him. That's probably another 40. Obviously, I sound like I'm playing career mode, but I do think like some of the young players we signed in the summer for literally pennies. I think we can really get some good ROI on them. So
we can, but I don't think we should be, if we stay up. This is obviously, like you said,
we shouldn't be wanting to sell them.
No, I don't think we should be thinking about selling them at all if we're in a position where we've survived. I think there'll be demand, obviously, but the whole point of getting rid of them would be because they don't want to be here playing for a championship team. I'd like to think that if we stay up, they'd want to stay on for at least another year. I mean, with Lavia, I think if I was him anyway, I'd be thinking about the Man City buyback clause.
Absolutely,
that's going to come in effect after 2 years, I think.
Yeah, so that activates in summer of 2024, and that's 36 million. Then.
Well, so there you go. So that's kind of how I'm thinking if I'm him. But it's 10 weeks. 10 weeks today is the final day of the season. So literally bang on 10 weeks time.
That's going to go so fast.
We'll know if Southampton are going to stay in the Premier League or not. And it will go fast, especially given the fact that it's 10 games in 10 weeks. Well, it's 10 games in 9 weeks because of the international break.
Oh my God.
International break, has it come at a good time for you, do you think?
Yes. Well, for my mental health, definitely, because I'm just getting too stressed every weekend. But no, I think it has. I think it was really important when you go into an international break that you have something to build on, right? You have a positive result going into that. So I think with the performances we had against United, Brentford, let's not talk about that, obviously, but against Spurs, coming back 3-3, I think that will put us in good stead. Hopefully, it gives players like Onuachu and Sulemana a little bit more time to get involved in tactics. As I said on our last stream, it'll be nice to see if players like Adozi, Aribo, Orsic can kind of sort themselves out over the international break, train hard, train well, hopefully put themselves back in within a shout. Especially like Saleta Sarr, see how bad Bella Kopchap and Bednarek's injury is.
Yeah,
it'll be good to see if we can almost bring that back. Potentially a couple of attitude problems behind the scenes. Hopefully that gets sorted and just clear the air, because we are going to need every single body if we're going to stay up in this league.
Well, if you think about what Ruben Sellers, if you think about what Ruben Sellers has had to deal with over the last 6 weeks, maybe even longer than that, because obviously the last international break was the World Cup.
Of course.
So basically, since Boxing Day, or just before that, he's had to deal with being the assistant of a new manager, trying to implement his ideas, which obviously inevitably didn't go well. And then seeing that guy sacked, then getting the job for one game, and then basically doing well, getting it full time. Because also, that wasn't going to happen if Jesse, they literally had Jesse Marsh ready to go. He was there in that hotel. He was down in Southampton. He was ready to become the new Southampton manager. So for Ruben Sellers, it must have been a really overwhelming period, and I think it's quite, obviously one that he'll grab with both hands. It's an opportunity he has grabbed with both hands. I think
Yeah,
the turnaround that we've gotten in points with this run is probably more than anyone could have asked for realistically.
absolutely it is. Yeah,
So he's done really
absolutely.
well so far. But I think it'd be good for him to be able to, and we're still learning, but I don't know what sort of character he is, but I'd like him to be able to just sit for 2-3 days and just relax a little bit.
Mate,
But
yeah.
I don't think he'll be doing that
No, his
given what's at
mentality is
stake.
obviously so strong, man. His mentality is obviously so strong. Like every single press conference, like against Spurs. Sorry, was it Spurs or United? I think he said, we came here to win. We had a plan to win. He says before every single
Yeah,
game in his press
United.
conference, he's like, we want to win.
Uh-huh.
We're happy with the performance. We're annoyed that we didn't get 3 points, and that's exactly the kind of mentality you want in a manager, in my opinion. He seems hungry for it, doesn't he? You see
Yeah,
him on
I
the
think he
sidelines.
does
He's
look hungry.
passionate.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think he looks hungry for it. I think he's got a point to prove. Obviously it's press conference talk and media talk saying like, oh, I think we're gonna, I'm confident we're staying up or whatever. But I
Yeah,
do agree. I do agree with the whole mentality of you've got to take every game as it comes. You can't look too much into the fixtures that are yet to come. I do think, and I include myself in this. I've definitely been victim or guilty of this. Just looking too far ahead,
mate.
looking at the
Mate, I
run
have
and
been as
thinking,
well. Yeah,
or everyone's saying, well, we've got the hardest run in and this team's got the best run in. But that means absolutely sod all because we've probably saved our best performances for the
but
teams that are nowhere near us in the league.
you look at with that argument, you look at teams who were playing in 5-6 weeks time, they could hit poor form, and that game then becomes easier, or vice versa.
Yeah,
So
or vice versa. They
yeah,
sack a
it's so
manager
hard.
and they sack a manager the week before and get the bounce.
I
It's
From what we saw from Palace today, I'm still confident they'll be in a similar situation because they don't look like they have any fight in that squad. But I'm sure people were saying the same about Saints 6 weeks ago before we went and go meet
yeah, no,
Chelsea.
and this is the thing, and that's kind of what my argument as to have we timed the decision to sack Jones perfectly, and we'll obviously find out. But yeah, I'm glad that we've got a week off.
Yeah, I am absolutely.
Because it's going to be one hell of a 9-week period to end off the season. Lots of games. It's just going to be very stressful. I mean, to be honest, it's going to be more watching teams around us play as opposed to us playing because most of them have got 11 or 12 games to play. So there's
I
obviously that to
know.
deal with too. But it's
It's horrid.
and that's out of our hands. And I feel like if Southampton are to go down, we're still bottom of the league with one of the favourites to go down. It's not going to be down to what happens, or at least for me. I don't think a lot
No.
of it's going to be down to what happens in the next 10 games. I think it's going to be a lot down to Nathan Jones's period. The games he was overseeing, and how many points were realistically on offer that we didn't get. I mean, what was it? 5 defeats in a row at home.
Yeah, he statistically was, after 8 games, he was statistically the worst manager we've had. And if you look at points per game, XG, all of it, XGC, all of it, he was the worst manager we've had after 8 games.
And that's
And he had our easiest run as well.
and I think that's kind of, at least for me, when I look back on the season as a whole, if we are down, that's what I'm going to be looking at, as opposed to whatever happens over the next 10 games. But I'm very, very confident that we'll be there fighting. And I say this now, touch wood, I'm very confident we won't finish bottom of the league. Obviously,
No, I don't.
obviously, whether we're in 18th or 19th, we'll have to see, and God hope we're not. But I think everyone talk, and this is what's been grinding my gears. And obviously, yeah, I have to. But referring to Southampton as bottom side Southampton,
Oh, when there's only a point in it, like, come on, we've got the third worst goal difference in the league.
I just want to see us move away from the bottom. I think that'll be a massive psychological boost. But
yeah, I agree. Like, do you remember when we went 19th and everyone was like, "Oh my god,"
I
it would just be
know.
it would just be so
It's been so
refreshing.
long. Yeah.
If we can beat West Ham and get out the bottom 3, big if. But I think mentally for the players, that'd be such a big barrier to get through. Just to see us outside the bottom 3, that'll
Yeah.
be
No, I know.
incredible.
Well, mate, I think we've covered everything we need to, really.
Absolutely.
I think yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm kind of big mix of emotions, but kind of glad that there's a little bit of a break before we head into
Mate,
the final
that is
run-in.
football.
But that is football. And that is football when you've got something to play for, something pretty big to play for. But
Quite big, yeah.
yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Though, if you've tuned in live or if you're watching on repeat, make sure to follow us on all of our socials. Give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't yet already. And we'll see you after the international break ahead of the run-in. Thanks for watching.